Hola amigos, welcome back to my channel. So today someone sent me a video called 10 essential tips and things to know before visiting New Zealand. It's a little bit different from what I usually do because I usually am watching Australian content. I've mentioned a few times before that my sister actually lives in Australia, so I am planning to visit at some point. And I figured if I'm going to be in Australia, why not also make a little trip to New Zealand, and I thought it would be interesting to watch this video just to be aware of the things you should not do in New Zealand. So let's find out.
Yo, what's up everybody? So you're planning a trip to New Zealand. Wow! Yen and I have 10 tips to share with you to make your trip a little bit easier. So my biggest tip for you if you're coming to New Zealand is have some idea of what you want to see in particular, because the North Island is extremely different from the South Island. In the North Island, you're going to find the three big city centres, Tauranga, Wellington and Auckland, as well as some geothermal pools in Rotorua, Hobbiton, which is a magical place, and you're also going to be able to reach the northmost accessible point, which is Cape Reinga. All of it is super beautiful, and of course don't forget the picturesque beaches that are dotted all along the coastline up in the North Island. Whereas in the South, you've got some amazing rugged landscapes. You've got Queenstown, of course, which is world famous for the Remarkables Mountains and the beautiful lakes in the town, wow, as well as be able to see Milford Sounds and glaciers. Christchurch is the second largest city.
Look at that scenery. It just makes me bad for being at home here in cold Copenhagen in the middle of October. I have to go out and wear my jacket. Earlier it was raining. I went to have breakfast at the place that I usually go to. It was raining, it was cold, and then just watching this guy in the sun in a little boat, and oh my god, really makes me want to visit.
In New Zealand, and you're also going to be able to find that in South Island. You might even want to do both of the islands, but you're just going to have to plan your time accordingly because there's a lot of space to cover in between. So here in New Zealand we've got 4 different seasons, and it's the complete opposite of the Northern Hemisphere. So when the Northern Hemisphere is in winter, we're in summer, and what I've got on is perfect for summer.
Yeah.
Shorts and a t-shirt, some flippy floppies, and you're good.
But wait, look at that. Warmest months is December, January and February. That's crazy, especially like I said, living in Copenhagen, December, January and February, you better wear your jacket, your gloves, your hat, everything in between.
In a t-shirt, some flippy floppies.
So now I know when I should visit my sister.
In spring and autumn, it gets a little bit colder, and so here in the North Island, a hoodie will be fine, but in the South Island, you may need one more extra layer maybe. And of course in winter, it does get pretty chilly, and we're gonna get Yen to demonstrate that.
Maybe something like this, especially if you're really scared of the cold like I am. But in the South Island, it gets way colder, sometimes even into the negatives during winter. So, dress warm. Remember to book popular activities and accommodation in advance, especially during peak season, which is summer here in New Zealand. For example, when we went to Hobbiton, you can check that video out here, we had to book our banquet tour dinner about a month and a half in advance just to be able to get seats for that activity.
This couple is really living the life, and I feel like these tips could apply to any trip that you do, right? The first one was plan your trip ahead, pack for the climate, book early. So far, you can pretty much apply that to any vacation you ever have.
So yeah, book early. New Zealand is known for being clean and green, and we really want to keep it that way.
And in fact, when a family of UK people came to New Zealand one time and left trash like everywhere, New Zealand was so outraged that they publicly put them on the front of like the New Zealand Herald and stuff like that.
Oh really?
Headlines. So
don't want to do that.
We get outraged when people start littering. Keep it clean and green.
Okay. I mean, I'm just surprised that if they would go to those lengths to publicly show people that were littering. I mean, totally up for that, but it's just that, for example, me coming from Mexico, if someone throws something in the floor, no one will be outraged. So I'm quite happy to see that in New Zealand you actually get in trouble for that, which I think makes absolute sense.
Another tip for you guys coming to New Zealand is to pick up a couple of Kiwi slangs, especially if you're going to have a yarn with us Kiwis. Because otherwise we might sound a little munter to you guys.
Munter.
And there's some common phrases like, yeah, nah, she'll be alright, which are kind of difficult to explain, but one of our favorite YouTubers, How To Dad, makes a really mean-ass video about it. You can check it out over here. But bugger, there's a lot of Kiwi slang words that you kind of have to get used to, especially if you've grown up living here. You just say them all the time anyway.
Although New Zealand is generally a pretty safe country, you do still want to beware of petty theft that can be a bit of an issue here, especially for motor vehicles. So don't leave any of your belongings or valuables in plain sight inside your car. And always remember, lock up, especially when you're visiting all these tourist sites. The most flexible way to explore New Zealand at your own pace is by renting a car and going around that way. Otherwise, you can get a motorhome. We have a fantastic camper van infrastructure here in New Zealand, and that will allow you to explore the smaller and rural towns, which always hold some great gems. Another option is by going on a scenic rail. For the North Island, you have Auckland to Wellington, and for the South Island, Picton to Christchurch, Christchurch to Greymouth. And here in New Zealand, we drive on the left side of the road. And another way to get around is to do a hop-on, hop-off bus experience. Do note though that in the smaller towns, that public transport is almost non-existent, so that's going to be pretty difficult to get around there. Last note, Ubers and taxis here are very expensive, so just be aware.
Wait, I think I misunderstood that. You drive on the left side of the road. I think that's the way you drive pretty much everywhere else, right? Except for, I think, in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I need to double check that. I'm just not sure which side she meant there.
So one of the big industries here in New Zealand is agriculture. We've also got a lot of beautiful forests, and so if you're entering New Zealand, we're really particular about whether or not you can bring any food. Basically, if you bring anything that you can eat, it's better to declare, because if you get caught with something and you haven't declared it, if it's like even a piece of an apple, you can get up to a $400,000 to $100,000 fine for severe cases. Also, if you've got any outdoor equipment or tramping boots or things like that with some mud on it, you might have to be forced to clean it before you come into the country, because Kauri dieback disease is a major issue here, and we're trying to prevent that. Just another thing to know.
Okay, well that's a very good tip actually.
One of the big things that you do need to think about when coming into New Zealand is how much your budget is going to be, because things are kind of expensive here. Even a cheap backpackers will cost you up to 20 to 50 per night, depending on the season that you come to New Zealand. And a hotel will typically cost you anywhere from $100 to $200 per night. And once again, that changes a lot. If you're staying in the small towns, it's a lot cheaper.
I'm curious how much is a New Zealand dollar to a euro. Let me just, or actually to Danish kroner. That's what I'm used to. New Zealand dollar. Yeah. Okay. I'm just double checking on my phone. So one New Zealand dollar is 0.57 dollars. So he said 20 New Zealand dollars. Well, that would be 10 euros or $11. I don't think that's that expensive for
a small town.
For a hotel room.
$200.
Wait, $20 for a hostel. That's $11 almost for a night. That's not too bad. Am I misunderstanding something? $50 New Zealand dollars, that's $30 for... Okay, but it's dorms. Yeah, okay. It's expensive, but it's not wildly expensive. Maybe because I'm not from Copenhagen, but I live in Copenhagen, so it doesn't seem outrageous to me. But if I compare it to Mexico, then it might be a little bit more outrageous.
You come to New Zealand, and a hotel will typically cost you anywhere from $100 to $200.
But I still think $100 to $200 per night is not really that bad.
Towns, it's a lot cheaper. If you're staying in the bigger towns, well, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Other things you might want to budget are also transportation. So transportation can cost anywhere for $75 to fill up a gas tank on a small car, up to $150 for a big car. So thinking about all those kind of things, you then need to add on things like activities and meals. Meals typically range from $15 up to $50 depending on if you get a drink or not. When you do go to some of the more fancier restaurants, they do have an option of whether or not you do want to tip.
Okay.
You don't have to though. I would probably budget on the low end $100 to $150. That includes activities and transport and accommodation and food, of course. And on the higher end, probably budgeting around about $150 to $250.
Okay. Ooh, adrenaline
Finally, New
activities.
Zealand, aside from being home to some absolutely picturesque landscapes, is also a great place for adrenaline seekers. Things like skydiving, which both Yen and I have done before, as well as being the birthplace of bungee jumping. You can also do things like the luge, zip lining across some beautiful scenery. It's just a fantastic place for those people looking for a little bit extra on their holiday.
Yeah, like I
So
said,
if
this
you guys
couple is really
enjoyed
living the life.
Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment. We always like hearing from you. And we're also going to leave some other videos here in the
All
place.
right, well, shout out to Peter and Yen. They're the creators of this original video. I'm quite jealous, honestly, just being here in Copenhagen and single while watching this amazing couple have a great time in New Zealand. Anyway, I guess that is it for today's video. As usual, if there's anything you'd like me to react to next, please put it down in the comments down below. Without any further ado, thank you so much for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I will see you next time. Bye.